the signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores.
It's amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California won the big game.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
This is Phil Steele.
This is Mike Burnham.
This is Wes Durham.
This is Mike Ashley.
Hi, this is Chuck Foreman, number 44 of the Minnesota Vikings.
Woo, mercy, this is handsome Jimmy Vane, the Boogie Woogie Man.
This is Coach Fry with Virginia Tech Football, and you are listening to Big Dog Sports Talk.
Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Okay, let's do it.
You're in the doghouse with Rick Watson on Big Dog Sports Talk, presented by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. Join us in the Family Fencing Studios and chime in on the McClellan Chiropractic chat line. He's keeping cool with help from Little River Heating and Air, but this show is straight fire. And now, the big dog, Rick Watson.
Rick Watson's got the mic, he's the big dog king. Cover sports so sharp, it's a New River thing. Virginia Tech fire, rapid pride too. Every stat, every play, he's bringing it to you. He's got that voice, deep as a valley, breaking it down, no dilly, no dally. Big dog sports talk, feel the bark. He's got the scoop, faster than a sprint. Calling plays like a coach, every word's a hint. From the courts to the fields, the stories unfold. Rick's play-by-play, worth its weight in gold. With a laugh and a growl, he'll pull you in. Big Dog's podcast, let the games begin. Big Dog Sports Talk, feel the bark, feel the bite. Rick's in the zone, every day, every night, from the Hokies to the Highlanders. He's got the spark, Big Dog Sports Talk, lighten up the dark.
Hey, how goes it here on a Hump-Day Wednesday? That's Henry the Camel reminding us to stay calm. It is Wednesday. Glad to have you with us wherever you might be. Please subscribe, like, and share the channel here in our Family Fencing Studios live from Reiner, where it's supposed to rain basically today and tomorrow. It wouldn't be Hump Day without Henry, by the way. If he's not on the screen, then you know it's not Wednesday. That look on his face, he kind of looks like Rachel Zegler at the Met Gala. How are you? Good morning. Coming up today, little switch in the schedule. Keon Brown unable to join us today. Damian Sordelette will be at 6:30. And then we are scheduled to be joined by the legend, Hall of Fame coach Steve Ragsdale and Marty Smith from ESPN. It's Marty and Rags, brought to you by the Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau Insurance. Coming your way here in hour 2. So hopefully all those things come to fruition here today. And I hope everybody is doing well, wherever you might be. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Vic. Good morning, One Wing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, indeed. Hey, man. You can talk to Coach. I'm sure he'd come over the mountain. Yeah, we got big news, Vic. Hey, Vic. Yeah, it's going to happen, folks. We're going to skip 16. We're going to go right to 24 teams. We're going to double the college playoff field. Your thoughts? The AFCA, the American Football Coaches Association, voted. And when they recommend this, that means they already know that they've been given leeway. It's going to happen. 24 teams and no more of the worthless college football championship games. And the season's going to end at a more normal time. So there you go. There you go. Yeah, I saw that too. The SEC, I've been saying this all along, and I've been saying it during my baseball broadcast in the Big South because it's been so bad. The computer challenge system for balls and strikes is going to be in the SEC tournament, and it's going to be throughout college baseball, maybe even in 2027. Just a matter of time. I have never seen such a discrepancy. Look, I'm not just trying to go on my way to criticize men and women who are out there trying hard, but I've never seen such a discrepancy of balls and strikes. It's the most confounding thing I've ever seen, how certain things will be called a strike early. Pitchers get used to it. 3 innings later, they hit the same spot. They don't get the call. Then they have to pitch differently. Reward a pitcher for hitting the target. Reward a pitcher for acknowledging, okay, this is what you're calling a strike, so I'll pitch to that. It's been an epidemic this year in both baseball and softball throughout our Big South games. And I really have absolutely no problem for it. A lot of people have a major problem with the 24 teams. How about that? They're going to jump it up 12. And what this is, folks, let's just say it the way it is. This is an absolute maximize money grab as much as you can. Anybody at ESPN is going to act like it's the greatest thing in the world because they're going to benefit. This is all planned to happen right before the new TV deals kick in. And when they're negotiated with the expanded conferences, guess what? We have ourselves a 24-team playoff. More money to try to solve what is going on with trying to pay players. Big Ten guy told me that this was likely going to be the vote. Wasn't sure, so I didn't bring it to the table. But here we are. Here we are. From Marty Smith's tales of Coach Ragsdale's teaching moments, there were times in high school, I bet Rags wondered if Marty was working with a full set of components. Remind me, I'll try to remind him to ask him. Good job, Boris. Marty, were you working with a full set of components? Well, we'll get Damien sort of let's take on all this, but I don't guess we're surprised. Good morning, T-Bird. Good morning, Bringer of Fire. Thanks to Family Fencing sponsoring our studios. Get a free quote, 540-200-8294. Go see Mark Hundley if your back needs to be popped. McClellan Chiropractic Clinic. Mark is the absolute best at what he does. NRV Super Bowl, we're going to have our meetup, 540-382-5525. They've been in business for 25 years serving the community. Reserve your lanes. Tell Terry you heard us talking about him, Terry Steik. Sundown Electric, one of the best businesses in our region down in Elliston. Give them a call. Check out their reviews. They have 100% satisfaction. That's unheard of. It's crazy. Honest integrity. They keep costs down. Thank you so much to the Smith brothers. Bob Christ, BOBCRST11 at Gmail. ReadySetFund.com, series of text messages for you, your organization. You can earn money for your team very quickly. Floyd County got $4,300 for their softball team in only 5 days. They do it every year, and the money goes up every year. Reach out to them. Just do it. Professional Door Incorporated, residential commercial garage doors, family owned and operated 38 years. That's Travis Williams up in Dublin, right across from New River Community College, sponsor of our text line, which blew up overnight when this vote came through. National Bank member FDIC, the exclusive banking partner of the show, the exclusive banking partner of yours truly. My refinancing went seamlessly thanks to Jamie down the Radford branch and all the help I got. Thanks to Larry Ramsey, they're the best. If you need to change your bank, you're frustrated, then rock and roll. BDST Fan Question of the Week brought to you by the attorney Ryan Price, 701 West Main Street in Radford, Trust and Estate Planning. Thanks to Ryan Price. And Charles Lee and Company, Little River Heating and Air, 295 Radford Street in Christiansburg. Many, many people have reached out to me about Little River Heating and Air. Hopefully you followed up, and I've been trying to tell you, you won't regret it. Go and enjoy the experience of having the lowest cost possible for the best job possible for something vitally important to keep your house maintained. keeping us maintained. Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment, the presenting sponsor of this program. Thanks so much to Jonathan Sweet, Tim Miller. We're going to have Tim on next week. We had Jonathan on this week. Movers and shakers, man. Movers and shakers. Thanks to Lawson's Mobile Home Supply. James is at 540-381-8011, 300 North Franklin Street in Christiansburg. And thanks to Brandon at Top Shelf Apparel, 4377 Lee Highway in Pulaski. Sponsor into our T-shirts. If anybody wants a T-shirt, hit me up. Let me know. They're only $20. They're only $20. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll let Coach know. Big Dog merch, baby. Big Dog pickleball merch, big sis. No, it's not happening. Now, they want to put the show logo on pickleball paddles, and we'll endorse it. We'll be a shill for pickleball paddles. So your thoughts, the 24-team playoff will be here, and it'll be here sooner than later. Now that the vote has been done by the coaches will get what they want. So what do you think? If you consider those who got full shares, for the Big Ten, by the way, they're going to get 7.3 more million per team. Other leagues will be able to calculate how much more it's going to be. But again, it's going to depend on how many teams you get in there. Most fans that I've gotten reaction from on the text line hate it. Nobody likes it. But it's going to happen. It is going to happen. The AFCA has also, let's see here. Let's just get the full, because again, we like to be accurate. Something doesn't happen in much of media today, but not here. We want to be accurate. The AFCA recommends that the season be completed by the second Monday in January. Nobody's going to complain about that. The season's too damn long. They're going to eliminate the championship games. They're done. Reduce the scheduled bye weeks from 2 to 1. Yeah, 2 bye weeks was stupid. Preserve a dedicated window for the Army-Navy game while allowing flexibility for other games to be played on that day outside the window. I like that a lot. The respect of that game. You damn well right you better respect the Army-Navy game. And reduce the minimum number of days between contests to no fewer than 6. In addition, future playoff models should maximize the number of participants while honoring the proposed completion day. Structuring the season in this way will better support athletes by more closely matching the academic calendar and aligning with the single transfer portal window. It also elevates the quality of play during the most meaningful stretch of the season by removing unnecessary breaks and preserving competitive rhythm. Now, questions for me is, how's the system going to be implemented without bowl championships, right? You're not going to have the not bowl championships, but you're not going to have the official championship game participant be guaranteed a spot. But how about that? We're going to go from 12 to 24. I mean, we're not even going to go to 16 to see how that works. More football, people say. I get it. We'll see what Damien says here in a second. Matthew says the logic is good, but I wish it was 16. Yeah, I was kind of looking at 16. Now, we're going to have Andy Bitter on tomorrow, and he hates this. Everybody, I mean, I get it. Does it lessen the regular season in your eyes? Coaches are going to be all over this because they want to have more of a chance to play, to play in a postseason. But it's happening. It's here. I'm trying to read some more of the reaction. I would say right now it's about a 75-25 split pro or against fans' initial reaction and the pro reaction. A lot of people are like, hey, what's the big deal? You knew this was coming. Well, maybe so. I don't have any problem I think most questions that I've got on the professional or text line, how do I feel about the conference championship games being eliminated? I really don't have a problem with it. I wasn't invested in it. They were dumb, right? Duke and Virginia played. Duke won the championship game. Miami was the representative. Ending the season is earlier than what it is now is good. The postseason, I don't mind. The getting 2 byes is too much. And what they're doing, I just call me cynical, but I believe the NFL's behind a lot of this. They're trying to make this so much more of an official minor league football system, which it always has been, college football. Notice everything's lining up now. Rules from the NFL are implemented in college football, the 2-minute warning being one. Now they're starting to get into the schedule, things like that. So it's here, and give me your thoughts and how you think this is going to affect the regular season. Prometheus says, I personally think it's fine. Maybe Tech can benefit. And I think that's what a lot of coaches who voted for this are thinking. You know what? We may lose 3 games. We may have a shot to still squeeze in there. I don't know how it's going to look. And I don't know if you're just going to have a ranking system. Are you going to do another computer system? Are you going to have a football net rankings like you do in college basketball? I mean, it's going to have to change a little bit, right? To see how all that works out. But I can't say I'm surprised. We knew it was going to expand. And now when you see this is just, it goes back to the first run of the show when we were just on the radio. Talked about it all the time. It rarely went down 1 week during football, especially, where I didn't question, okay, so and that was when we had the BCS. I used to say, take out the C. It was the BS. 4 teams, the computer system that now we look back, heck, the computer model may have been much better than what we have now. But why they left so much money on the table all those years because of politics, all the lies. Well, now we know why, right? It was all just misrepresentation of where the concerns stood. They fought it for so long, the playoff. All we heard about was the regular season. How many times did we hear that from conference commissioners? I heard it from Jim Weaver, who sat in my studio. Our regular season means more than anything in any sport. If we start adding playoff teams, what's it going to mean for fans? Well, I think fans are going to end up being very excited. I don't think you're going to sit around a 12-game football schedule and ever consciously sit there as a fan and think, boy, this game doesn't mean anything. This isn't like college basketball. It's going to go to 76 teams. So of the 300, and I don't know what it is now, 335, whatever it is, it's about 18% of all teams will qualify for the NCAA tournament. For the college football tournament, it's going to be 17 of the 130-some teams that are eligible. So it doesn't really change a whole lot. With the huge conferences, Penn State could make the playoffs without playing Indiana, Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon without a conference championship game. And you can plug in any school, not just Penn State. Yeah. It's going to be wild, man. It's going to be wild to see how all this plays out. But it's going to be more football. It's going to lend itself to much fewer arguments of who should be in, who shouldn't be in. And the power leagues are going to control it. Let's just say it the way it is. You know it. I know it. The American people know it. But like I said, it's about a 75-25 split. People are against it. But I don't believe the regular season gets devalued. If anything, what this does, I think, helps these schools be able to go out and ask for more help from their support system, you, the fans, the donors. Because now things are opened up a little bit. See, all this seems like it's headed in a direction we don't know. How much money does it take? We just need more. We don't know how much more, but we need more. We just know it needs to be a lot. But I don't sit here and believe that it will ever devalue the regular season in our eyes. College basketball regular season will be devalued some. But that's always the argument against, right? The devaluing of it. The NFL added 7 teams per conference, and I don't think the regular season has been devalued. Right? Yeah, I get you, Prometheus. Yeah, something they don't control, but yeah, that could happen. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So anyway, this is hit and a good time to talk to this gentleman about it. We appreciate him maneuvering his schedule a little bit. Damian Sordelet, the Virginia Tech football beat writer for the Roanoke Times. Good. What's up, DS? Good morning.
Morning. 30 minutes early is not that bad. So
yeah, not bad. Not bad. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, your thoughts. So we're going to have 2014. We're not even going to go to 16. We're just going to go from 12 to 24. Your thoughts on that? Is it, I guess your initial thought, my initial thought was hearing from people they're concerned about the regular season. Do you think it devalues the regular season much as people think it might?
Yeah, you kind of look at what the FCS goes through. And I talked to Danny Rocco last week, and he had, I think his perspective is good on this, that when he was at Delaware, I believe it was his first or second year, it might have been his first year, they had been like 4-7, 4-7. And first year he gets into like 7-4, 8-3, somewhere in that range, with wins over like New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and then Delaware gets left out of the field, which is 24, and New Hampshire, which have been ranked all year, had high expectations, gets in. So I'm not saying that would happen at the FBS level, but you open the door for a committee to say, well, this team was ranked all year, their body of work's good, we like them, but then a team that was not on the radar at the beginning of the year and then burst onto the scene, and then they're like, well, yeah, probably too little too late. But again, I understand where the American Football Coaches Association is coming from.
Yep.
I would rather them finish up the season on New Year's Day. If you're getting rid of conference championship games, go into your first round, which would be 9 through 24. Your top 8 get buys, and then go into the round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finish up on New Year's Day. We don't need to go to the second Monday of January. That's extending it a little too far.
I don't mind that either. Yeah, I like that too. The sooner the better. Yeah, I'm with you on that. How do you feel about the elimination of the conference championship games? That's kind of more of a lot of people seem to not care, but then there are people who are very adamant that shouldn't happen. It seems like there's no middle ground there.
Yeah, there's no middle ground because it's a moneymaker and it gives you a chance to play for a championship. If, say, for years in the ACC, if you weren't Clemson or Florida State, if you had a chance to get to the ACC title game and win it, then you say, oh, we're ACC champions, even though we were by far the second or third best team in the league behind Clemson and Florida State. But Prometheus is right. And I was reading the comments right before I came on. He's right. You could be in a big league and avoid the top teams. Virginia, this upcoming season, have a good year and make the playoffs. I mean, you look at UVA's schedule, it's still one of the easiest in Power 4. And they're avoiding all the big dogs. And you have another good year like they had last year, and you're in the playoffs in 2014. Whereas Virginia Tech goes to SMU, goes to Clemson, goes to Miami, hosts Georgia Tech. Cal's going to be sneaky good. Virginia Tech would be a team that, bad year last year, But if you have success this year and you flip your record around and you go 9-3, do you get left out because last year, you weren't good and no one was expecting anything of you coming into this year? So
yeah.
That's a worry for me. I don't like this because there's a power grab by the power conferences, like you think. Like the Big Ten's probably going to say, well, we want X number of designated spots.
No question.
To say that.
No question.
But I mean, the AFCA did say they want inclusion for all leagues, so hopefully it goes to that. And I don't know what the criteria is going to be for seeding and stuff like that. And it's probably going to be the same jumbled mess that we're going to see with expanded basketball tournaments too. Like they're going to appease the big leagues and probably going to screw some really good teams out of this. And I don't know what's going to do with the bowl games. How much do you devalue bowl games? And do you then move bowl games to the beginning of the year and have those as the openers? And
I think you have to, especially now. I mean, they're going to be devalued 10 times what they already are right now. I mean, you're not part of the 24 playoff. Why even play one of these bowl games, right? It's just not going to matter at all. Tech qualifies for some game in the bowl and they're not in the tournament. Who cares? Anybody. Yeah. I mean, who cares?
Yeah, and then how do you match up bowl games at the beginning of the year if you're looking for strength of schedule? If you're if you're a power conference team and you're be slotted in a bowl game against a MAC team, how would that look in terms of strength of schedule? So, I mean, it's kind of tricky how you do that. And then again, I don't want it to be P4 versus P4, G6 versus G6, because then you're saying to the G6 teams, well, no one's scheduling you to begin with.
Yeah.
We're not going to schedule you to play any good teams in a bowl game to open the season, where that could help springboard your season and give you a good resume builder. So it's a slippery slope we're going down. It might end up being where we get to that point of you take certain teams and put them in their own division, and then everyone else is on their own. Like when we get to the breakaway for, what is it, 64 teams that want to branch away from everyone and create their own subdivision, then everyone else stays back. So I hope we're not trending in that direction, but we very well could be seeing the tea leaves to that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised. I am a little surprised they jumped it that much, but that shows you they're trying to get this implemented and started to when it's going to begin, when the next TV deals are negotiated too, right? They're going to maximize as much money as they can. So and
Greg Sankey brought up that the number one seed would have the choice to select which bowl sites they would play in for the quarterfinals and the semifinals. At this point, I'm like, just play them on host sites, and then put the Rose Bowl. If you move the championship game to New Year's Day, just play the championship game at the Rose Bowl every year.
They get the granddaddy of them all. It's what it's called. Why not? Yeah.
Yep.
That makes perfect sense.
Right. And then revenue would come into the host sites. If you are one of those top teams and you get to host these playoff games, you get to keep the revenue. And what's the big deal these days? Revenue.
That's all it's about. Yep.
Right. So if you're a Virginia Tech and you have a really good year and you have a chance to host one or two CFP games, that's a lot of revenue coming in, especially and then you're thinking about the TV money that you could get from the ACC. That's going to be a big deal. So,
do you see any chance at all that we're going to see one of these situations where, like, for instance, Kyle Whittingham said he expects to see multiple $50 million rosters. He may have dumbed it down some. He said a handful. I think it's going to be more like, I was told, expect 25 to 35. Like it's going to happen sooner than later. College basketball coaches yesterday saying you're going to see the norm in power. If you're going to be a good team, you need 20 to 25 million. at what point does that just become so unsustainable that somebody's going to have to just say stop, right? These rising costs there's no net. There's nothing that makes any sense as to why that would be the case.
Right. And I saw Sean Miller brought up the 20 to 25 million for basketball. And yeah, it's ridiculous. It just shows that NIL is pay for play.
Yeah, that's all it is. I mean,
yeah.
I know the official legalese is NIL, but it's not NIL. It never has been.
No, it is pay for play. I know, honestly, NIL was set up with the right intentions, but again, with no safeguards and no one there patrolling the gates and making sure things stayed in order. The NCAA's mantra is, "Oh, this works. We'll just go ahead, do it." And then we're not going to put any safeguards on it. We're not going to monitor it. No, we're not going to do anything like that. And then all of a sudden, boom, it turns into this. And the NCAA is like, well, what are we supposed to do? Your jobs. But again.
Yeah, right. Yeah. How about what
So,
you're paid to do? Yeah.
Right. So I don't know what's going to take to get that changed. I know everyone's turning to Congress and saying, you need legislation for this. I think if you get someone in charge at the NCAA or someone who has backbone and who has a set of balls, you can probably get it done. Because then you can say, you're not taxing these donors to the nth degree, because that's essentially what it is. Donors are getting taxed to the nth degree to keep up.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good way to put it. That's exactly what it is, isn't it? That's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah.
Just continual taxation,
Yep.
Do you think it helps? Because I know there's been a lot of people question. I saw that as well. People are like, why should we continue to give to this system? Why do we continue to pour money if we're donors and we're fans? I guess if you have it, you can do whatever you want with your money.
Right.
But now this feels like this is also going to be something that's going to be used. Hey, we got a new playoff now. We can be part of that. We just need a little more. Right? It's going to be interesting to see how much donations change, or if they change at all going forward across the country.
Right. And there's going to be some sort of fatigue with it, right? You're going to need, you're going to have people who say, okay, we'll give just a little bit more, feel like this is a good chance for the, whatever program to, keep moving forward. And then all of a sudden, you're going to get to a point where they're like, what's the point? Where's my return on investment? What's the point of increasing my giving every year if, and you keep saying, hey, we just need a little bit more. We just need a little bit more. And you're like, well, what am I getting out of it? So yeah, there is going to be some fatigue with it. Comes with everything. You're going to have, like, the big money donors. You're right. They'll probably give, and it doesn't matter to them because it's probably a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
But you have probably everyone here in this chat who are in the same boat of, man, like, what's the point in giving? Like, I give, but at the same time, it's like, why do you keep asking me for more? Usually I would give some.
Right.
And then, hey, great.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Now it's like, oh yeah, thanks. Can you up it a little bit more? We need it. So yeah. Again, Vic's right. College football is probably going to generate even more money now. But you need to get to the point where your athletic department could be sustainable. Virginia Tech's not there yet. I think it can be, but you need to get to like the SEC or the Big Ten where you're getting those TV dollars.
Exactly. You got to get out of the ACC to get there. Because I was going to ask you about that. I know James Franklin's asked. I'm told by people how he's going about it basically every day over there. If he's promised something or if he's told something, he's calling those people, hey, where's my money? Basically that's the way the whole department's being run right now. So he's got all these unrealistic, or maybe they are realistic in his mind, expectations. How can that transfer from a place like Penn State, which has a totally different type of budget, very few money concerns, as opposed to Tech, who's trying to get caught up. And can they get caught up to satisfy somebody like Franklin?
Yeah, Franklin has said this multiple times, and he's spot on. Virginia Tech is catching up, but the problem is the people they're catching up to never let their foot off the gas.
So they're going to fall. They're going to catch up and fall behind still because, yeah.
Essentially, they're trying to catch up to a certain point where, say, Penn State might have been a couple years ago, but the problem is Penn State's already well ahead of that part. So, you don't need a Rutgers situation on your hands where you're throwing so much money at it, but then you lose it.
Yeah.
Prometheus, right? There needs to be a cap on this. Problem is, your big programs are going to whine like babies and act like they've never been spanked in their life, never act like they've never been told in their life, and said, we can spend as much money as we want. There does not need to be a cap on this. But he's right. There's a realization there needs to be a cap on this, which means collective bargaining needs to come into this. Does collective bargaining come into it? We have no idea. That means you need to designate these student athletes as employees. We've had this conversation before. Those of us who have worked at the universities we attended, we were designated as employees of whichever part of the university we worked at and got paychecks and all that stuff. So these players need to be considered employees. Like
100%.
And then
100%.
you can do collective bargaining. You can do a cap. You can do whatever you want in order to get there to be a cap on this. You can rein it in, do whatever. Try to make it work with a house settlement. Whatever. Try to rein in pay for play with the NIL. That's what's going to need to happen.
And I know they need to have collective bargaining, but I wonder who would they negotiate against? You're right. There's no union for the athletes coming in. They're just individuals trying to get their bag, right? They have representation. I mean, would that just come down to the conferences themselves, right? I don't, how would you even go? And then it's going to be challenged. It's going to end up in litigation because this has been a free for all. And now you're trying to change. I mean, it just feels like this is nowhere near to happen. Now, I agree there should be a cap, but it's like Major League Baseball's fought it for so long. Now they're basically going to lose, I think, an entire season next year because they need a cap and a floor. And I think finally they're going to strike out. But what do you think? You think there's any way to do that in the next year or two that won't be just held up in courts everywhere?
Yeah, you can't do it conference by conference because the Big Ten would say, well, our cap's going to be $50 million.
Yeah.
Then you look at Conference USA and say, well, our cap is $500,000. Like that's the difference right now. So you would have to find a way to make it all uniform. And again, like I mentioned, like these MAC programs, Conference USA, to an extent, Sunbelt, they can't have these absurd cap spaces. Now you could be like the Marlins, you could be like the Twins, trying to think of the A's. You could be like them where you don't spend all your cap space. But again, we're not talking about professional sports where you have cap flexibility year to year. I would say like you could do that and see if you could be successful. Whereas you'll have these big conference programs that'll try to max their cap at each year and try to go all in every year. Whereas you could probably be smart and find a way to be successful without utilizing all your cap. But again, that would need to be something that comes from, you need a uniform cap. Where that comes about, you probably need Charlie Baker, again, grow a backbone and say, this is how we're doing it. And
you think he has power, or is he just a figurehead? Is he kind of like Goodell going out and just?
Yeah, he's a figurehead, but again, he he answers to the university presidents.
Yes.
And if Tim Sands is saying out loud, "Wake me up when this is over," he's not the only university president who's thinking that. So you could probably get a whole mess load of university presidents on board with trying to make things uniform from a cap standpoint, from collective bargaining, making these student athletes, designate them as employees since they are getting paid from the university. You could have a lot of presidents who would be on board with this. Because, again, if Tim Sands is saying out loud what probably 90% or more of university presidents are thinking when it comes to what the system looks like and how it is evolved into this mess of a problem that we're going to be talking about on a weekly basis. So the university presidents are who Charlie Baker answers to. He just needs to go to them and say, all right, we need to find a way to make this work. Don't involve the courts. And then I think that could help out quite a bit.
Well, we'll see how this dust settles here in the next month or so once this is officially accepted. I know it will be, and what the reaction might be. What did you got some interviews coming up with some tech folks, right? What do you got or come? Is that when are you sitting down with Whit? Don't you guys get a Whit opportunity here soon?
Tomorrow.
Or not? Tomorrow. Hey, there it is. You think he'll answer questions?
Well, he's always answered questions, so I have a feeling we'll have a good opportunity to ask him a few things. I know my notepad is full of topics I want to touch on, and hopefully we get I think we get an hour. Hopefully it's a little bit more because I know it's myself, Mark Berman, Andy, Teal. The four of us are sitting down with him.
Oh, so. Good. 2 from each of the same publication, so that's good.
Well, yeah. I guess you can say that. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to go over, not just from a football standpoint, but from. I know a lot of people are going to ask him about his legacy, all that stuff. Ask him about the timing. I did find it interesting that he mentioned in the press release that it was he was looking at 2027 to retire, which means he was really tied to Tim Sands.
Yeah.
So the fact that Sands chose to retire or leave earlier, you could say probably the board may have forced him out, or Sands was like, you know what, my time's up. We'll ask Whit about that. Where the athletic. Go ahead.
How do you look at his legacy? Because to me, he failed because he failed football, which is what he was brought in to maintain because the inevitable, retirement of Frank Beamer. It didn't work out. I mean, he made a good hire on paper. It failed tremendously. Then he made a horrible hire, overreactionary hire from a guy who never should have been a head coach. He failed football. He's put football in this situation. You can talk about Final Four in women's basketball and softball. Okay, that's great, but they don't make any money. I mean, and they didn't go out and get money until this last ask, that he was challenged to get before. I think all these things were set in motion right after Brent Pry was fired, when he wasn't allowed to announce it, when Tim Sands announced it. How do you view his legacy? Is that too harsh? Or is that just being honest?
It's a complex legacy because, like you mentioned, Justin Fuente was the hire for the 2016 season.
100%.
Everyone wanted him. He outmaneuvered everyone, got him. And 19 wins in the first 2 years, a trip to the ACC championship game, the bowl win over Arkansas. Like, there are a lot of good things, and James Franklin mentioned this in an interview, and he's right. Justin Fuente didn't have the resources to maintain this. Now, did Justin Fuente help his own cause.
I don't
he
agree
ran
with
quarterbacks into the ground, and
correct. Yeah,
how he managed his roster. I mean, you have 10 scholarship running backs on the roster when you had 85 scholarships. I mean,
yeah, that was more of a James
did
Franklin.
Justin Fuente manage his resources like he should have?
Correct. He did not. He did not, and it was a disaster. And
right,
that's coaches are going to say that to try to defend themselves. They're always going to use that as a scapegoat. We just don't have the resources. How can I win? How can I do my job?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I think from Franklin's standpoint, it was near the end of the Beamer reign is when you started seeing Virginia Tech start to fall behind, and then you could see they really fell behind under Fuente because they're just doing what they were keeping up with what worked for them at the time in like the early 2000s. Oh, this is what we did to be successful. This is what we should be putting in, right? That's what happened. They weren't keeping up with anyone. They were doing what they thought was successful and just didn't work. I agree. The Brent Pry hire, now looking back at it, should never happen. It seemed like that was a John Boleyn special.
Speaking of legacies,
yeah, I mean, we've known for a while he's retiring again this year. So, yeah, but in the end, he got it right. This is August. This is before Brent Pry got hired. Witt saying, "Hey, enough's enough. We need money." Yeah. And then again, I'll say this, Prometheus, the fundraising has increased under Witt's watch, but the fact that you never had a true head of the Hokie Club who knew how to fundraise, and the fact that University Advancement is having to take on the brunt of this fundraising for Invest to Win shows that the Hokie Club just wasn't stacked. I mean, there's a good number of people working in the Hokie Club right now. But you need more.
Yeah, yeah.
And you need someone there who has significant fundraising experience. And the lost my train of thought here. They have put the advertisement out for the head of the Hokie Club.
Saw that.
Same as they put out a position for football, which is director of analytics and strategy and whatnot. That's a new position where you're going analytics mode, using AI, all that stuff to kind of. That's the road they're going with pro sports. But again, back to Witt, it's a complicated legacy because.
That's a good way to say it. Yeah,
he had his swan song of getting the $250 million to get the athletic department back to relevancy, and then I guess you could say his work in the background of talking with Jimmy Sexton and handling the agent side of things while Pearson, McCarthy, Foster, Rokovich, that group handled the negotiations with Franklin. You could say like his swan song was pretty good. It's just the main thing leading up to it was not. So
correct.
Complicated. He did get basketball back to relevancy. They were losing games left and right, bringing Buzz Williams. You get to the Sweet 16 and 19. Should have gone to the Elite Eight. Arguably should have beaten Duke. You have an ACC title with Mike Young. Men's basketball is a revenue-producing sport, so getting that back to relevancy, you could say, hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But again, football is the driver here at the university. It's the front porch, and if you are placating to the fans to get them to come to games because you need them there and you're not winning, that wasn't a good sign. So now Franklin's like, hey, we want to win, and now we got to see them win.
Right.
We'll see the direction the university goes with how they hire an athletic director and what the structure of the athletic department looks like. But again, I think it's a complex legacy.
Yeah.
Prometheus, you're right around the letter grade I was going to give.
Yeah, which is not ideal for a guy making 7 figures. So
no, it's not ideal, but at the same time, it could have been a lot worse. I mean, if he didn't get the money and they didn't hire James Franklin, you're looking at like it's a letter grade that probably wouldn't be good. But
no.
He the lasting impression, the last thing he does, that's people are probably like 10 years down the line, that's probably what people are going to be talking about him, and not in the moment. Oh yeah, we know what he did over 12 years, and the body of work just wasn't there. It was the swan song, the last things he did.
Well, I don't know. I question how much involvement he had with Franklin. I think that was going to happen, whether he was working with Sexton. I mean, that was just as common stuff. You know, you're going to work out the arrangements. Right. Franklin didn't have other options, and Brockovich wanted James Franklin.
Right.
That was the goal the whole time. Go get James Franklin. So I don't know how much wit. They're trying to soften the blow a little bit, maybe a little bit, but I don't know how much of that was.
And yeah, I did get confirmation that I think it was the day after Franklin was fired at Penn State, that when it was at a meeting and Witt said, "Okay, James Franklin, what's the feeling in the room?"
Yeah.
And it was unanimous. And that's when I can't remember if it was Babcock or who, but it was like, all right, you guys go get Franklin, and then the rest of the search committee vet your other guys, right? So, you know, I will give Witt some credit there. Sexton is not a guy that's easy to deal with because of his demands. Pry wasn't a Sexton guy. Fuente wasn't a Sexton guy. So, and you know, you didn't have to deal with Sexton negotiating Beamer's contract because that was already set in stone. When he got there. So, he helped with that. I know the USA Today article said Babcock met with Franklin at the Atlanta airport. Like, I don't know how much involvement Witt had. I know he did have involvement with Sexton and working with the numbers. But again, at some point, it's like he didn't have that big of a deal. But again, he helped out. He got them. I think he made sure the right people were in the search committee were handling Franklin, which with Bud on part of that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially for Franklin. So
it was.
Again, like Prometheus said, I think Witt's grade goes up because of getting the money and then working behind the scenes for the Franklin hire.
Well, good stuff, man. I hope it goes well tomorrow. Can't wait to get your follow-up once you talk to him tomorrow. That'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, all of us will be having something tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot to digest after sitting down with him and the amount of topics we need to touch on.
Looking forward to that.
There'll be a lot that'll come out of that, and getting to the point of the year where I was at a Red Jacks game yesterday and talked to D'Angelo Ortiz, the son of David Ortiz, ask about his development and all that stuff. So I'll have something on that later.
Oh, good. Okay.
Early next week. But the main thing the rest of this week would be sitting down with Witt. And,
all right, man.
That's going to probably be his last sit down interview ever as the AD. So
right.
There'll be a lot that he says to us, and no cameras or anything, just recorders, and ask him some questions. So
good. That'll make it easier. So
that's what.
All right, man.
Yeah, that's why I like to do it with just the traditional media outlets.
Exactly.
Andy Bitter's still a traditional newspaper guy. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, man, thanks again for moving up. We'll be back regular time next week. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. Have a great rest of the week, man.
All right. You too, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot, Damien. Damien Sordelette from the Roanoke Times join us, Virginia Tech football beat writer. He'll be with Whit Babcock tomorrow. Hit us up in the McClellan Chiropractic chat room, also on the Professional Door text line. Many of you have. It's that time. Well, we're a little bit beyond a month, but it's that time we're joined by this gentleman as we await the other gentleman. He is the Hall of Famer, the legendary head coach of the Giles Spartans, Coach Steve Ragsdale. Coach, how are you? And good morning, my friend.
Good, Rick. How about you? How you doing?
I'm doing well. We're waiting Marty to join us. But, hey, first of all, I'm glad to hear your oral surgery went well, man. That's always kind of a tricky situation, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just minus. I got 2 big holes in the back of my mouth. That's all. So,
well, you're good now, right? I think you had a couple of procedures. Everything seemed to be going okay, right? Everything's good.
Yeah, I still got some stitches in there. I'm supposed to get those out Thursday. What's the day anyway? Wednesday or Tuesday?
It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday. I do that all the time.
When you're retired, you forget which day it is. So yeah, get some stitches out and then go from there.
I understand. Well, I guess while we wait for Marty, I want to get your reaction. I know you follow it very closely. We're going to the maximum amount of teams in college football playoff. It looks like the coaches voted on this, and usually when they vote, they know they're going to have that accepted. What do you think, going from 12 all the way to 24? We're doubling the thing.
I didn't even know that had happened, but now that you bring it up, I don't like it myself. I mean, my gosh, where's the end of that? If I use high school football as an analogy or a comparison, used to be back when I first started, there were in out here where we are, and what was at that time called Region 4, and then we were in AA at that time too. There were 2 districts in the region, the Southwest District, which was a really good, strong district, had Graham, Abingdon, Virginia High, Marion, all those schools, which year in and year out, there were going to be 3 or 4 of them, the Richlands that were going to be really, really tough. And then you had the New River District, which was, that was a great district. I mean, you had us, Giles, and Blacksburg, and Radford, and George Wythe, Narrows, etc. And that went back. As a matter of fact, the New River District was formed in 1960. Prior to that, teams out in this area were in old District 6, which had, that was a huge district. It had like Martinsville, Bassett, all the New River District teams, so but anyway, going at that time, actually, teams in this area did not. If you were AA, there was no playoffs. You played 9 games and put the uniforms up and went into basketball. But anyway, I'm getting off topic a little bit there. When I first started, you had the top 2 teams in the New River District and the top 2 teams in the Southwest District, and they were in the playoffs for Region 4. All right. Number 1 in one district played number 2 in the other district, and vice versa. Okay. And if you made the playoffs, you had a darn good football team. You had to be good just to make it. And over time, that has gotten, and there weren't but 3 there were 3 classifications: A, AA, and AAA. AAA was 1,000 and above in the top 3 grades. AA was from 500 to 1,000 in the top 3 grades, and single A was everything below 500. And so gradually, you know, they've added this and that. They split those up into, instead of just 3 groups. And so you came out of the playoffs at that time, you had 3 state champions. And our first one in 1980, that's the way it was set up. And I mean, you had to be darn good just to make the playoffs, much less, you know, win a state championship. And now I don't know how many teams. I've lost track of how they do it. But the first round, you'll see scores like 50-0 and 56 to 7 and that stuff, and it's just ridiculous.
We used to beat people that
day. You got to go, you got to travel somewhere to play, and then get beat 60-0. I mean, you know, why bother? And so I don't like this, you know, expansion of everything. I didn't realize they'd gone. What'd you say it was 24?
Yeah, Mark Dog, you know what's up, by the way, number 9. Good morning,
we say,
Marty.
Boys. Good morning.
Hey, Marty, how you doing, man?
Great to be with you guys today. Love it. Look forward to it.
Good.
To hear some pontification and some eternal wisdom.
I got to ask you, take us through Churchill Downs real quick, man. That was fun.
Incredible story. I mean,
what a race.
Yeah, I mean, Cherie DeVoe, Golden Tempo. Very under the radar all week. I mean, the house made a fortune because everybody, I mean, everybody was looking at Renegade, which had a great run. Irad Ortiz, the jockey for Renegade, did a great job. But right out of the gate, I mean, that thing was bouncing around off other horses like a pinball, and didn't get a great break. And then you got, you know, Jose Ortiz, little brother, coming from the abyss on the 19 horse to close in just an astounding fashion and win the Run for the Roses, the first female trainer in 152 years to win the Kentucky Derby. And that was Jose, the jockey's first Derby win as well, in his 11th try. And 160,000 people were there to experience it in person, and 25 million people watched it on NBC, the most viewed Kentucky Derby ever. So just an incredible experience. It is every single year. They do such a great job at Churchill. There's a lot of similarities to Augusta just in this way, that the desire to maintain the traditions that built it while also continuing to evolve each year. And that is the experience, the grounds. I was joking with my cameraman that, you know, after Golden Tempo won, I said, well, there'll be a new terrace out there in the turn 1 next year because everybody here just lost their rear ends. The house made a fortune on Saturday, but incredible day, incredible experience, a great week. I saw a lot of my friends up there that I've worked with through the years in various capacities for various companies, and just an incredible blessing to get to do it. I'm forever grateful for all this mess.
Well, it was so beautiful just seeing it all. You're right. I was going to ask you about that because it feels like the Masters. It does. The connection is exactly true. It's just that correlation of it all. Like you're saying, you got to advance. You got to see where things are going. But, man, we're going to do whatever we can. And it looked like if you'd have been watching it 20 years ago, right? It didn't look like it had changed a whole lot, at least from
it
TV
was as wide open a race. Coach, I'm sure you're familiar with Bob Baffert. Bob he is the trainer who's won 6 Kentucky Derbies. His horses have finished first 7 times. But Medina Spirit, one of his horses that finished first a couple years ago, was disqualified. So he has 6 official Kentucky Derby victories on his resume as a trainer. He's the gentleman that wears those blue glasses and has that shock of white hair. He just, he looks like a movie. And anyway, on Friday, he sent me a note, a text message, and was like, "Where are you, man?" And when I got to the track, I went over and saw him in his office on the backside in his barn. And we talked for like an hour, 90 minutes. And he agreed with me. I mean, as I went into this, Renegade to me seemed like the best horse going away. And everyone in the barn seemed to agree with that on paper. Buddy drew the rail. And no horse has now won from the rail in 41 years.
Right.
From the one post. Ferdinand in 1986 was the last horse to win from the one post in Kentucky Derby. And when I was talking to Bob about it, I said, man, I feel like this is the most wide open field in my 10 or so years covering this sport. And he did not disagree. And he's been doing it for his entire life. And it wound up being true. I mean, you had the winner and the third place horses. There weren't a lot of people throwing money down there.
Yeah.
And those who did made a lot of it back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was an experience. I didn't know, Coach, were you watching? Did you watch? Did you get into the stuff?
No, I'm not a big horse racing guy. I've been to one horse race in my life, and that was up in the in West Virginia, up there, just above Winchester. Well, I can't even remember the name of the place where Coach Kelly and I, in fact, went up there, Marty, and
I could see Coach Kelly being into the ponies.
One of his college buddies lives up there, or did live up there, and we went up there. That was when I was single, and he as well. And we went up there and stayed at his buddy's house, and then went to the horse races. I enjoyed it. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was a good experience. And what's the name of that? It's just over the Virginia line into West Virginia, and
it's a horse racing park.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it's not Churchill Downs or anything like that, or even
it's just the Churchill Downs of West Virginia.
What's the next one in the Triple Crown up in Baltimore?
That would be the Preakness Stakes,
yeah.
And then it is the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah,
Long
right.
Island is the final leg.
Crown, but
Mountaineer Casino Resort, is that right? No,
I think that's right. I think that's right. It wasn't named that then. I think the name has changed since then, but I think that's correct.
New Cumberland, West Virginia, Coach, is what it says. I
don't know where New Cumberland is. Where is that? Like by Beckley or somewhere?
Well, it's in there between. If you get up into Northern Virginia there, and you cut across to DC.
Oh, it's up there.
It's in that area. Okay. Yeah, it's not down here in the southern part of West Virginia. It's kind of up there. Like I say, in between, like Harrisonburg and more like Winchester, between Winchester and DC.
I know that little route. We when I'm going up north for summertime, so you go through Berryville, and those northern, like up near Winchester, like Coach is saying, and it's Route 7, and you go right down. I forget what river it is. I'm not a geography guy, Coach. You're smarter than me, but in my mind, it's the Potomac. I'm sure it's not the Potomac.
Well, no, the Potomac comes on out there. You got Harper's Ferry.
That may be the Potomac then.
I might not be horrible. And out in that area, and it's the Potomac River. When I was at Roanoke College, we used to
look at you.
when I was at Roanoke College, we used to play all those schools up there in that Baltimore, D.C. area. Played Towson State, Loyola, Baltimore, and in fact, we went up and played Georgetown the very first year that who was the head coach up there. It was his first year. They were just starting basketball, and but anyway, we would travel up there via station wagons and a van, something like that.
Horse and buggy.
Kind of interesting. We never ever spent the night after a game. We would go up the day before, practice, say, in a high school gym, spend the night that night in a motel, hotel / and then play the game the next evening and then load into the station wagon or the van and stop at Lindy's or something like that and pick up a box of chicken and head down the road. And then we'd get back at like about 3 in the morning or something like that. But we never, ever missed a practice the next day. You had everybody sleepwalking, but we never missed a practice. But anyway, that's getting so yeah, I was up in that area. I don't know. Charlestown, that's the name of the place. Charlestown, 2 separate words. Okay. And that's the only horse race I've ever been to live. Now, I got a buddy who was from Silver Spring, Maryland, that played basketball at Roanoke College, and he and a guy from here in Parisburg, they go to or did. I don't know if they still are or not. I've kind of lost touch a little bit over the last year or two, but they go to the Kentucky Derby every single year. The two of them.
Even if you're not a horse racing person, I say this about 5 different American sporting moments. There are 5 institutions. There's the Super Bowl, the Kentucky Derby, the Indianapolis 500, the Daytona 500, and the Masters Tournament. They all transcend their own sport.
Yeah, they do.
They are events. They are national holidays. And whether you pay attention to the sport or not, the energy and the narrative around those events is so well entrenched in the national consciousness that it's happening. And that's not the case for the vast majority of anything anymore. There's so much noise today. There's so many inputs. Everything's moving so fast. My middle daughter just turned 17 years old on Friday. And I'm telling you, she was 4 years old yesterday. And so those events are, they just, the aura, the history, the tradition, the position in their own sport, just in my estimation, accelerates them far greater into the mainstream consciousness than anything else in their sport.
I used to watch, the Triple Crown races on a regular basis. Somehow just along the way, I kind of got away from that. But you've seen a lot of it. Compare Secretariat with your top horses now. How does that compare?
There's not any comparison to anyone ever, or any other horse ever. I don't know the stat, Coach. I saw a note that, and this is guesstimation. Let's just say Secretariat, based on the numbers and the data of how dominant he was, would have won this year's Kentucky Derby by like, I don't know, double-digit lengths. And I mean, that's just that is just one of one. And it's a myth for a reason, because it was just so dominant and the story behind him and everything. But yeah, there's not a comparison really.
Yeah, agreed. The greatest non-human athlete ever.
Isn't it wild?
Secretary.
Just shifting gears for a minute, Coach, talking about that area of West Virginia up there. It always is so interesting to me that Coach Saban and Jimbo Fisher and some of these world-class football coaches who are, Coach Saban is the greatest to ever do it. Jimbo's a national champion as well. Really enjoying broadcasting. He's doing a good job at it. But it's so interesting to me that they both came from those little West Virginia towns up there.
Yeah.
And they maintain those same sensibilities they learned, same ones that we have. They're basically from where we're from.
Well, I think a lot of times we take things and make them more complicated than they are and should be. I think there's some just basic principles for success in anything, and it's not real complicated, particularly in football, man. We tend to make things more complicated, or want to try to make them more complicated and than what they really are and should be. I'll give you an example. I used to go to in Virginia, we have the VHSL, Virginia High School League, and Virginia High School Coaches Association have a great clinic every summer. Okay. And it used to move around the state to different locations, but it eventually kind of landed, and I guess they're still having it down in the Hampton Roads area down there. But I'd go to these sessions of, they'd have college coaches speaking, or maybe a pro assistant coach or two, and et cetera. And I always tried to attend the sessions, as many as I could, and learn what I could, and then, they still do this on defense. They talk about, okay, you line up in a 2 technique, or you're playing a 6 technique, and you're playing a 8 technique, and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, why make it more complicated than it needs to be? I mean, if the kid's supposed to line up on the outside shoulder of the guard, just tell him, hey, line up with your nose even with the tip of the shoulder pad of the offensive guard. You don't need some, you're playing a 3 technique, and the kid's sitting there going, 3, where's that at, coach? And it usually just boils down to blocking and tackling anyhow, and get lined up right, know what your responsibility is, and go do it. And we don't need to try to turn it into rocket science and all that type of stuff. So there ain't too many football coaches that are rocket scientists. I'm going to tell you that right now. Anyhow, I don't know how I got on that.
That's okay.
I don't either, but I'm glad you did.
I'm glad you did. Craig County watching this morning, guys, in their locker room. They got the whole team in there.
Nice.
So that's great. They're running your offense, Coach.
What's that now?
Craig County, the Rockets. They're chiming in. They got us on the big screen up there in the whole weight room. Good morning, guys.
They want you to offer some sage wisdom on swing 43 right now.
Well, I can do that now. I'm going to
We all
tell
do.
you.
We all do.
We're
Let's
aware.
Go. Let's go.
I maintain this. I think the most lethal play that we had, I know you're going to say it's 32, but it was 47.
Oh, 47.
47 is my favorite football play of all time.
Let me tell you about 47.
All right.
I love
47 has got the prettiest blocking scheme of all time.
I just started sweating, by the way.
Okay. and you're talking about the single wing. One thing about it, it's based on the Pop Warner actually invented the single wing, the so-called quote unquote modern single wing at the Carlisle School. I think that's what it was called, in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And that school was, they brought Indians, literally Indians from the plains to, now this goes way back, to this school up in Pennsylvania. And the idea was to teach them the ways of white men, and therefore be able to integrate them into, you know, the white man's society in the East. And Jim Thorpe came, he was one of the Indians that got brought from out west to the Carlisle School, and he played football, ran track, you know, one of the greatest athletes of all time. And then they had a college team, and they played against the top teams in America. They were one of the top teams in America, and that's where the single wing kind of, as we know it now, kind of originated. And that's hey, this is a great story here. All right. And I'll get back to 47. Don't let me forget it. But Eisenhower. All right. Ike Eisenhower, who was the top commanding officer in the European theater in World War II, the top man trying to defeat fascist Italy and Germany, who later became president of the United States. He was playing for West Point, for the U.S. Military Academy, all right, college football. And they were playing Carlisle University. And the story goes, I don't know whether it's true or not, but my dad used to tell me these stories that the U.S. Military Academy was playing Carlisle, and that Eisenhower was given, he was making it tough on Jim Thorpe. All right, and Jim Thorpe was saying to him, I don't know if any of this is true or not.
I love it. I love every bit of it.
But Jim Thorpe kept telling Ike. Ike would tackle him, and they'd get up off the ground. And Jim Thorpe would say, Ike, better let Jim run. Next time Ike would tackle him, he'd get up and say, Ike, better let Jim run. Well, in the meantime, one of Jim Thorpe's teammates, one of his offensive linemen or something, in a big pile up, Jim Thorpe's leg was in front of his face. And of course, at that time, maybe, and I'm not sure about this one way or another, but I know it was like this back down in high school. Not everybody wore a helmet. Okay, some of them just wore stocking caps. In fact, my dad would tell stories like the defensive line. I'm getting off track again.
That's all right, man. We got time.
The defensive lineman in the day if an offensive lineman was just wearing a stocking cap and no helmet, and when I say helmet, I mean it was literally a piece of leather that they just pulled over their head, but the defensive lineman would rear up and grab on the snap of the ball, grab the offensive lineman's stocking gap and pull it down over his face so he couldn't do he couldn't see what he was doing, and in the meantime use his other arm to bring his elbow up and hit the offensive guy in the face with his elbow. So that was like bam, okay? And then by the end of the game, the offensive lineman's face would just be a bloody mess. All right. But anyway, going back to Jim Thorpe, this offensive lineman of his, he saw Jim Thorpe's leg in front of him, and so he just grabbed it and took a big bite out of it. All right. And that really made Jim mad. He didn't know it was his teammate that did it. I guess maybe he thought Ike did it to him. I don't know. But a couple of plays later, he ran the ball, and when the dust rose from that, Eisenhower was out cold on the field where Jim had run over top of him. So let's get back to 47. So that was, I was talking about Carlisle, okay, the Carlisle school. And they were right up there with the top teams, you know, up and down the East Coast. Most of your top teams then were on the East Coast. Yep. And Ivy League schools like Harvard, Yale, all of them, they were top teams in the country. Heck, where my daughter lives, where Sarah lives up there, Marty, she lives just a few steps down the road from, Rutgers, okay, Rutgers University. And they played the first college football game. It's a paved over parking lot now, but the first college football game was played between Rutgers and
I should know this.
I'm trying to think. Maybe Princeton. I believe it was Princeton and Rutgers. I'm not sure about the others, but I know Rutgers was one of them.
I'll confirm here.
All right, getting back to 47. Okay, and the single wing in general. The deception in the back. Is it Princeton, Rick?
Rutgers and Princeton, 1869, November.
Yeah, okay. And there's a plaque up there now that says, hey, the first college, what they call the first collegiate football game. Of course, at that time, they had maybe like 20 players out there on each team at the same time, you know, and they had to kind of, you know, get it a little more civilized. Teddy Roosevelt was in favor of canceling college football because there were too many deaths involved. Deaths, not injuries, deaths. Okay. And then some of the top coaches of the day went and sat down with him and talked it over, and they kind of came up with some rule changes and stuff like that. Okay. To keep the game going. All right. Getting back to 47 and the single wing in general, a lot of the plays, the deception in the backfield sets up, in all of them really, sets up the blocking schemes up front. And you end up with a lot of cross blocks on the linebackers. All right. And so you got a linebacker over there he's seeing something entirely new to him, and they can't, you know, they can try to rehearse it in practice and stuff like that, but no way can they do it as well as what they're going to see on Friday night. All right. And so and you know, kids are kids, and heck, I see it in the pros and college on weekends. Stuff like, you know, when you're a defensive back, Marty, and you're supposed to, you know, we got a key for you to keep your eyes on, you know, a receiver, and particularly like if your key is a tight end, well, if he blocks, that tells you it's a run. And if he comes down the field, that tells you it's a pass, or probably a pass, or maybe a pass. And then when you get down next to the goal line, then that key really becomes critical. And if you take your eye off of that tight end and they run a play action pass, that receiver may be, and very well will be, standing wide open in the back of the end zone. We used to say when we were coaching, Coach Williams, Coach Kelly, and us, we'd sitting around talking, said the receiver in the back of the end zone is always going to be open, because those defensive backs can't stand it. They've got to look in the backfield to see what's going on back there, And of course we try to tell them and coach them, hey, you're keying that tight end, but your peripheral vision, you're going to see what goes on in the backfield. Humanly, you can't do that. You can only look at one thing at a time. You can be driving your car down the road and you're looking at the road in front of you. And if you're really concentrating on that, a kid can come off of a side road on a bicycle and you don't even see them. They don't even, talk about peripheral vision. Yeah, but they don't register in your brain. Okay. And I see that in college football. I see it in the pros. Get down on the goal line, fake the ball to the tailback or whoever. And hey, there's a tight end standing over in the backfield, or in the end zone, waving his arms. He's just wide open over there. And these guys are getting paid millions of dollars. All right. And they're supposed to be keying that tight end, but they're not doing it. Their brain won't let them do it. Okay. So anyway, again, I'm getting off track. All right. So go back to 47. All right. We show them our reverse a few times. We run our power over there, and then we run our reverse a few times, and of course they've been coached to watch that reverse. Keep your eye open for that reverse coming back, and then the next thing you know, hey, they think it's the reverse, and bam, it's going right up the gut. 47. And that linebacker is sitting over there, and they're looking into the backfield trying to figure out what's going on, and maybe they've got a key in that offensive line that they're supposed to watch, which they do initially, but then they take their eyes off of him, just like that secondary guy does down on the goal line, and then all of a sudden. And there's no lead blocker, but all of a sudden from the side, boom. And there's a story that goes back to Princeton University, which I've talked on this show about, that's where my father got the single wing that we used, was from Princeton University. And there's a story, I forget which school it involves, but the guy, the linebacker, says all day long I was getting ready to make the tackle. I had that back in my sights and I was getting ready to make the tackle, and somebody would come from out of my view from the side and just bump me out of the way, and I was gone, and all day long that was happening. And that's one of the great things on 47. Now, I'm going to tell you, a guy that ran that play to perfection.
Oh, I know who did.
You'll never guess this. No, you'll never guess this.
Let me see.
Who? You tell me who you think it is.
Well, I know Rayfield ran it to perfection.
Yeah, Rayfield ran it good.
Let me see. Let me think.
This guy I'm talking about, he scored, I don't know how many touchdowns just on that single play alone.
Was this my era?
Jerry Huffman.
Oh, Coach Huffy. Yeah, man. Let's go.
Okay. He ran, if you go back and get the 6 16 millimeter film from his era. And there's a guy in Giles County right now who has copied a lot of those 16 millimeter film from me and put them on a whatever you call a thing you stick into your computer. You can see it, USB. And everything. He's converted a lot of those film to those, what do you call it, a stick or something like that you put in your computer,
like a USB,
whatever,
like a thumb drive,
all those games. And Jerry Hoffman now listen to this, he played for my dad. He played tailback for my dad, and he was one of our JV coaches, okay, the track coach. He never played in a losing football game. Period. None.
What?
Zero.
Undefeated? Wow.
Never played in a losing football game.
And coach probably played varsity for 4 years.
He played little league football. He came up, played 8th grade football, played JV football, played varsity football, never played in a losing game. Now, at that time, they didn't have any playoffs, okay? But he played on some teams. He played on my dad's last 3 teams in 60, 61, and 62. 62, he was a senior, and they were undefeated all 3 of those seasons. So on the varsity level, he never played in a losing football game. And when he was a freshman and played JV football, this is at Narrows now, never played in a losing game, and on down the list, Little League or the works. Think about that. So he never played in a losing football game, but he loved 47. Me too. And he ran it to perfection. And the story goes, they were playing over at Pulaski one night. All right. And of course, that was the old Pulaski high school. They played their games on the field that's now the pro baseball field. It's a baseball field there in Pulaski
Park.
At that time, they played. It was just Pulaski High School, and Dublin was still separate. They hadn't consolidated yet. So you had Dublin, which had their football team, and you had Pulaski, which had their football team. And Pulaski played their games down there on what's the baseball field. They played baseball and football, and then a lot of the places were like that. Down at Narrows, that field was that was a baseball field at one time, and then they played football on it too. But I remember they were playing over at Pulaski, Jerry's senior year, and he ran. Supposedly, Dad called a play. He called our favorite play, 44. All right, and he was calling the plays with his tailbacks. And Jerry was one of them. Jerry was a really good running back, but he wasn't as good passing the ball. But he had another tailback who was an excellent passer and an adequate runner, okay? And he called the plays with those 2 players. Well, he calls 44. Jerry goes into the game, and he says, okay, boys, 47. We're running 47. Okay. And so
audible.
They run 47 from about midfield, and Jerry breaks through the middle of the line and scampers down the field, touchdown. And he comes out of the game, and Dad's kind of upset, but he can't be too upset because he got a touchdown on Jerry's call. But he gets on Jerry a little bit. He says, Jerry, I thought I told you to call 44. And Jerry says, Coach, all the players out there just wanted to run 47. So I But anyway, that is just a beautiful play. And let me add this on this play. We went up to, was me, Coach Edwards, Coach Don Lowe. Okay, the three of us. Now, this goes back to the early 80s.
Legends, man.
We drove up to just outside Columbus, Ohio, to the last college, or one of the last colleges, to run the single wing. Gosh, what's the name of that school?
Ohio, did you say?
In Ohio. It's a Division III school, but there was an article in Sports Illustrated about them at the time, because they were one of the, I think maybe one or two college football teams that still ran the single wing.
Denison University?
Denison University.
Boy,
okay.
Rick's on his AI game today.
I am, man. I'm cheating. I'm cheating, but I'm looking it up.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you are. Denison University. We went up there. I'd called up there because I saw this article in Sports Illustrated, and so I called up there. Their coach at the time, his name was Keith Piper. He's dead now. He's died since we went up there, and but I called up there and I asked him, "Hey, Coach, we run the single wing, and we'd like to come up there and sit down and talk to you, and maybe we can learn something from you," which we did. We drove up there, and God, he was nice as he could be, and he showed us all kind of film. And God, he had a playbook that was like yay thick. I got a copy of it right now upstairs on my desk up there. And
that's cool.
He had a quarterback by the name of Sampson. His last name was Sampson. And he had played at the time the triple option, the wishbone and all that was very popular. And he had played this kid named Sampson had played high school football down in Florida as a wishbone quarterback. So he was good at running the option. Okay. Now, if you go back in single wing history, it's kind of like rugby in a lot of ways. There were built-in options to pitch the ball, not just in the backfield like we would do now with a triple option play. You fake the dive, and then the quarterback comes on down the line and he first of all reads the defensive tackle, and then he reads the quarterback, and he may give it to the dive back, he may keep it himself, or he may pitch it to the pitch back. Well, if you go back in the history of the single wing, they're pitching the ball all over the place. Okay. And it's designed, like, for example, on our 46, where the tailback keeps the ball up inside the defensive tackle. You trap the tackle and you keep the ball up inside. But you can send that fullback around the end, and that kind of influences the defense up front, okay, and sets up the blocking, but it also puts him in a position to be a pitch back. And that tailback, he can break into that secondary, and if that defensive halfback comes up to tackle him, he can pitch it out, and he's beyond the line of scrimmage when he's doing this. He can pitch that ball out to that fullback that's going around the end. All right. Well, at Denison, and also you've got this option on 47. The tailback can, as he fakes it to the wing back, all right, he fakes it to the wing back, and he keeps it, and he goes right straight up the middle. The blocking back, who is a lead blocker usually, goes around the end.
Yep.
And they had plays in their highlight tapes where this Sampson kid would break into the secondary on 47 right up the gut, and the safety man would come up to tackle him or something, and the halfback, he pitched the ball, I'm not exaggerating here, 15 yards, 10 or 15 yards out to the side to the blocking back who'd gone around the end and was still running down the field. I mean, it was amazing. I'd never seen anything like it, except in these old Newt Rockney films. Ronald Reagan played Gipper in one of them. You remember that movie, that old movie, way back?
Win one for the Gipper.
Yeah, win one for the George Gipp. I mean, it's a true story. The man was laying in the hospital, and Newt Rockney went to visit him, I think, in the hospital or something. I can't remember all the details. But Ronald Reagan played George Gipp. So anyway, that was, and I tell you what we saw there that I'd never seen before was what we called our 60 series, 61, 63, 62 pass. We kind of whittled it down to just a handful of plays, but where the wingback goes in motion and you can give it to him, or you can fake it to him and give it to the fullback, or you can keep it yourself, yourself being the tailback, and then you can throw out of that. I saw that for the first time up at Denison University, sitting around watching their highlight tape, and they did all kinds of stuff like that.
Thinking about all these RPOs today, it's so interesting because, with all these RPOs today, the quarterback in so many cases is basically a tailback.
Yeah.
And so they are putting the football in the belly of backs and receivers going all different directions.
Absolutely.
And it would have been really interesting to see the execution of something like 47 pass, where tailback receives snap, puts the football in the belly of the wing back and rides it. Now, all right, you're right. You ride it.
Yeah.
You pull it. Backside tight end is, running the seam or running a post or whatnot. Because obviously when you put that football in the belly of the wing back and ride it, every one of those defensive backs is coming up.
Yeah. Well, my dad had a play that they ran a lot back in the early 60s. Now the tailback didn't ride anybody, but he got the snap and he started towards the line of scrimmage, like it would be like 46. Okay. And then right before he reached the line of scrimmage, he would just on the run, just jump up, and the left end would be coming across, and he would hit him with a pass on the run. And at that time, Narrows had a left end by the name of Dan Flegger.
Oh yeah, he was great.
And he was a man among boys. Now, this was like in 60, 61. All right. Dan was a junior in 60, and he was a senior in 61. And at that time, there was no weightlifting, or anything like that. Your weightlifting was putting up hay, and just doing whatever you do. I can remember my brother, who's 5 years older than I was, the big thing then when he was in high school was isometrics. Y'all know what isometrics are? You push against an immovable object. Okay, so you've got like a bar that's bolted on each ends to wooden columns, and you do curls, but it doesn't move. You're there just pressing as hard as you can against that bar, doing a biceps curl. but the bar doesn't move, and you can build muscle like that. The trouble is it's only kind of in that one position. But again, I'm getting off track. There wasn't really a lot of weightlifting back then. All right. There might have been a room somewhere, where the janitor kept his brooms, and there was a barbell in there with a few weights you could stick on it, and but anyway, Dan Fligger was a man among boys. And by the way, he officiated. He was an official in the Virginia High School League. He lives down in Salem. He officiated high school football for 50 years. And in fact, he called some of our playoff games. We would very seldom get him for a regular season game, but occasionally we would have him for a playoff game. But he was like about 6'5" and weighed 215, and he could run like a deer. And I remember they played over Dublin one night. I guess that would have been his senior year. And they ran the play I'm talking about, where the tailback started in there and just jumped up and hit him on the run coming across the field. And he caught it on the dead run. And the safety man for Dublin came up to tackle him. He didn't have a chance. Dan just took him with his left arm. It wasn't a stiff arm. It was a SWAT arm. He just took him and just swatted him away like he was a fly or something, and went on down the sideline for about 50 or 60 yards for a touchdown. So they had a play, it wasn't play action, but kind of it was. And then you'll see these occasionally on TV. They'll have the play down next to the goal line where the quarterback will start like he's going into the line or something, and jump up and hit the end over the middle, and the commentators will go nuts. Oh gosh, man, look at they are improvising there. I'm thinking, man, I saw that 50 years ago. And of course, and what's his name? The coach there at Kansas City, and his quarterback. They've actually run a few single wing plays down on the goal line. They ran a Buck Series play in one game. I remember saying, I think it was in the playoffs, maybe not in the last year or two, but a couple years, 2 or 3 years back. So,
as you've been talking, I was thinking about this. What was the transition like for you to have played at Narrows High School, to have this legendary, iconic father at Narrows High School, and then become the coach at Giles High School? What was that transition like for you?
Well, that's a really good question, Marty, and it's a great question. I kind of don't even know how to ask that. I think it was more difficult for my dad than it probably was for me. But let me. My mother, she never missed a football game, and she started going to football games in high school down at Narrows in high school. And she had lived as a young girl up and down the East Coast. Her father was a traveling salesman. She lived in Charleston, South Carolina, Ocean View down at Norfolk. But her family, her mother, my grandmother, she was from Giles County, specifically Narrows. Her father was from Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. His family was from Savannah, Georgia. outside Savannah, Georgia, a little town called Rincon. If you go down I-95 right now, there's an exit, Rincon, Georgia. Okay, that's where my grandfather on my mother's side was from, that little town, that little area there. Okay. But anyway, Mom, by the time she got into high school, she was going to Narrows High School. You know, she lived in Narrows, and that's a long story about her father and what happened to him and so on. I don't want to get into that, but essentially she was raised by her mother. Okay, once she settled in Narrows, she went to every football game. Okay, at Narrows High School, and at that time they played football games, high school football games in the afternoon. They hadn't started lights yet. Okay. And Dad was coaching. He started football down at Narrows. I think it was 1931. He came out here in 1930. And old Jeremy Haymore, who wrote that book, okay, he's got a little thing going on, I guess, I don't know what you call it. It's on, you can get it on your phone. Somebody sent me a copy of my dad's first day in Narrows, Virginia.
Oh, that's cool.
And he came from Lunenburg County, who we beat in the state championship game.
Yes, we did.
He was raised in Lunenburg County on a tobacco farm. And you talk about hard work. That is hard work. We would go down there, and he would take us when we were kids out to where he was raised, and he was raised in a house that was essentially a log cabin. Part of it was built around the Civil War time. And in fact, his grandfathers, now this seems impossible, both of his grandfathers, who are my great-grandfathers, both of them fought in the Civil War. Now, that seems impossible.
That's insanity. Yeah, that's crazy.
Now, I think they were very young, maybe like in their teenage years. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So anyway, and my dad was, his schooling in elementary school and high school was just a one-room classroom out there in the country. I mean, a square, and essentially, just a one-room school. From there, he went to Lynchburg College, and he'd never played football. They didn't have enough players for a football team. The only thing they played, and there wasn't any such thing as a gym, the only thing they played was baseball. He loved baseball. He played baseball growing up. He played catcher. All right. He coached baseball at Narrows High School. He coached everything. When he first came out here in the 30s, he was a football coach in the fall. He was the basketball coach in the winter. He was the baseball coach in the spring. And that was typical at that time. I mean, the coach was the coach.
Yeah.
You coached everything.
Gil Thorpe.
Yeah. Now, let me tell you this. The first, he got here in 1930. He'd never been west of Lynchburg. He came out here on the train, and he got here, and then I think the next day he was at what the school, and it sits, it's not there any longer. Not the one down at the football field, but another school up on top the hill up there that overlooks Narrows. There was a school up there. All right. It's since been torn down, and there's a house built right there. Okay. All right. The first sporting activity that he saw when he got to Giles County was outdoor basketball. Narrows was playing Pearisburg High School, and they didn't have football team. I don't guess either one of them. I know Narrows didn't. And it was in the fall of the year, and they're playing outdoors on that same field that Narrows plays their football games on right now. The basketball court was down there on the end away from the school building down there. And Pearisburg and Narrows were playing basketball outdoors in the fall of the year. That's the first athletic activity he saw in Giles County. Okay. Now let's go answer your question. So he was the coach, and they called him. His name was not Harry Ragsdale. His name was Coach. You know, I would tag along with him on Saturday morning, like after a Friday night football game. He'd go downtown. One of the guy who scored the first touchdown at Narrows High School, a guy by the name of Brooks Johnson, ran a clothing store downtown Narrows. Didn't think of that, downtown Narrows. Okay. All right.
Definitely a bustling metropolis.
When I was growing up, there was a downtown. They had stores and they were busy. You know, that was before the Walmarts of the world and even before shopping centers. Okay. So every little town out here in Southwest Virginia had its shopping part of town, you know, a shoe store, a department store, a drug store. But anyway, I'd tag along with my dad, and he'd go down to Brooks Johnson's store, and they'd sit around and talk about the game the previous night. All right. And Brooks had played football for Dad. I don't know how I got onto that, but I'm trying to kind of give you a thing of and oh yeah, no, I was talking about, hey, nobody called him Harry. His name was Coach.
Coach, yeah.
And that was something that was ingrained in my brain. And as I grew up and if you go somewhere with Dad, hey coach, and I really wasn't consciously thinking about that at the time, but I love to be called Coach. It almost brings tears to my eyes when I hear that. Not Coach Ragsdale, and I love that, but just Coach. Hey, you're the coach. You've earned the right to be called Coach. You know, not everybody can be called Coach. And
it's true.
As a kid growing up, hey, my dad's name was Coach. And so later on, when you know, I started coaching and everything, and players would call me Coach, God, I love that. I just loved that, you know, and it was just ingrained in me. And let me tell you all this story. I may have already told you this, and if I have, I want you to stop me, okay? We all know Frank Beamer, all right? Frank Beamer was raised at the bottom of the mountain over there. I think it's Route 52 that goes down the mountain over there beyond Hillsville. He was raised down there, and he played high school football for Hillsville High School. My older brother, I've only got one brother. He's older, 5 years older. He played against Frank Beamer in high school. Coach Beamer was the quarterback at Hillsville High School. Their head coach was a guy by the name of Tommy Thompson. All right. Tommy Thompson had gone to Pearisburg High School and played football at Pearisburg High School against my dad's Narrows High School teams. Okay. And then I think he went to Emory and Henry and he ends up as the head coach at Hillsville High School. Excuse me. Well, his mother lived here in Pearisburg. In fact, when I first got married, well, actually before I got married and was coaching a single, I bought a little house out in Fairview Acres. That's on the left going out of town on Route 100. And Tommy Thompson's mother lived right behind me. And when I was growing up and in school, when we would go to church on Sunday in the fall and come home from church, and Tommy Thompson would be sitting on our side porch. All right. He was the head coach at Hillsville High School. Now, you picture something like this happening now. He would be sitting on our side porch waiting on us to get home from church. He was the head coach at Hillsville. He'd been coaching about 3 years. Frank Beamer was playing for him. He went up to, being Tommy Thompson, went up to the Baltimore Colts and sat down with their coaching staff. And that was, they're now the what? They moved out of Baltimore and went, I guess, to Cincinnati. Ended up being what used to be the Baltimore Colts. Johnny Unitas was their quarterback. Lenny Moore was their running back. Raymond Berry was their great receiver. They were one of the top NFL teams. So Tommy Thompson goes up there and sits down with these pro coaches, and they show him their pro style offense. Okay. Two running back, your typical pro set, two running backs, tight end, split end, flanker. All right. He comes back. He did that because he had Frank Beamer playing quarterback, and he knew he had a good one. And they installed that pro-style offense at Hillsville High School. Well, nobody around here had ever played against anything like that. Most of the teams just ran a straight T. Quarterback's under center, and you got three backs back there in a row in the backfield. All right. But here Hillsville was running a pro-style offense. And one night against Hillsville played, I think it was Dublin. And Frank Beamer had an ungodly night. I think he threw 20-some passes, which was unheard of in that day and time. And he only had like one or two incomplete passes all night. All right. Okay. So Tommy Thompson's done that. And now he's sitting on our porch waiting to talk to my dad. Now, this is when they first started film, 16 millimeter film that I talked about earlier in these high schools in Southwest Virginia. And you film the game on Friday night. An outfit out of Roanoke made a loop. They came down there was no Interstate 81. They came down 460, went on out through Claypool Hill and Lebanon and Abingdon, and then came back up Route 11, which was runs parallel to what's now 81. And they picked up these reels of 16 millimeter film from every high school along the way. High schools were just getting started filming Friday night games. Okay. They would take them back to Roanoke and they would process them on Saturday. Saturday evening, they'd make the return route and they'd drop the finished product off in each little town. Nara's high school's games were dropped off at the sheriff's office here in Pearisburg. And so Dad would come up Friday afternoon, Friday evening, I'd tag along with him picking up the game film. Then he would watch it on Sunday, throw it up on the dining room wall. And Tommy Thompson would watch it with him. Now, can you imagine that?
No.
I mean, can you imagine me sitting down with Norm Linneberg or Coach Chris over at Blacksburg, and we're watching our game of the ball game Friday night? But this is the absolute truth.
That's cool.
Dad would have the projector, and he'd be running the projector, and Tommy Thompson would be sitting over here in one of our dining room chairs, and I'd be sitting in the third chair between the two. And the three of us, and I'm like, what was I in 61? I was 10 years old. All right. So I'm sitting there with these two coaches watching the game film of Friday night. Now, Tommy didn't bring his game film along, okay? But we're watching this stuff. And that's where I learned the single wing right there. I mean, I learned it watching it with my dad, okay? And then on Sundays with Tommy Thompson. And heck, when I was 12 years old, I could diagram practically every play that we ran when you were playing. All right. I already knew them. And then I got some nuanced stuff, like I got some up at Denison University, some that really helped us out. And then I kind of, tweaked things myself. And, but basically it was the same thing my dad ran that came from Princeton University. All right. And I've told that story, I'm pretty sure. All right. And, but my mom would tell Dad after Coach Thompson would leave, she'd say, Harry, you're going to keep showing him those films and talking to him in there, and he's going to beat you. He's going to beat you. Well, Dad's very last year, 1962, Jerry Huffman is a senior on that team. My brother is a junior. Naras is riding a 2-year winning streak. They were undefeated in 60. They were undefeated in 61. And they were just getting started the season in 62. All right. They played 1 or 2 games. They go over to Hillsville to play Hillsville. Now Frank Beamer, I don't think was the quarterback on that team. I think he came along the next year. But at the end of the third quarter, Hillsville was ahead by a touchdown. All right. And Naras had to come from behind, which they did, and won the game something like 14-7. Okay. Now, let me tell you this. Just this past weekend, my younger daughter, Margie, was here visiting. She lives down in Roanoke now. And I don't know, somehow she's getting married, all right, next May. And she wanted to get a picture of my mother and her when she was just a little girl together to show, have it at the wedding. So I got to digging into some old films and stuff like that. And I came across this letter addressed to my dad. Now listen to this. Guess who it was from?
Tommy Thompson.
Tommy Thompson.
It was a letter from Tommy Thompson addressed to Dad when he retired from coaching. And he writes in that letter how much he appreciated my dad's help and that he learned so much from him. And that, I mean, he just goes on. And he says, I respect you so much as a coach and your sportsmanship in particular. And and how you handled yourself and your willingness to help me, a young coach just getting started. Now, think about that. And is there such a thing now?
Well, certainly not with the written word.
No.
I say, Coach, I say all the time when I speak to assemblages, when I speak at events, and certainly when I speak to young people, young, impressionable college students, high school players, college players. The first thing I say to college players is, when we leave here today, I want you to do me a favor. This is your homework. Pick up the phone and call your parents. Pick up the phone and call your parents and say, thank you. Thank you for your sacrifice, because what y'all got to understand is you are your parents' dream. Everything they've done is to get you to a place where you could fulfill your dreams and thereby their dreams. So that's your homework. Number 2, get your parents for your birthday, Christmas, go out there, get some stationery that's got your name on it or your initials, get a nice pen. And if somebody does something nice for you, sit down and write them a letter. Write a letter that says, thank you. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for offering our most precious resource, time. Thank you for giving me opportunity, because if you do that, that 2 minutes of your life buys you forever in that person's soul.
Yep.
In a 140 character world where we sit around on these damn things all the time, it drives me absolutely crazy. If you do that, it is so impressionable. It is a lost art.
Yeah.
And I write hundreds of them a year.
Here's what I want to throw in. And this was important. And I learned this from Dad. And I go on about my father, but my gosh almighty, he I wouldn't be sitting here doing this now, if it weren't for him. And but
neither would I.
He believed in sportsmanship, as did the other coaches. I mentioned earlier that he coached baseball, and I've heard people say, yeah, Coach Ragsdale would during the baseball game, he'd go up on the side of the hill with Coach Brown over at Blacksburg, and they'd sit there on the side of the hill while the baseball game was going on and talk football, but they were competitors, but there was good sportsmanship. And at that time, one of the clubs in Roanoke used to award a sportsmanship trophy to a high school for their good sportsmanship. And Dad's team won it one year, and the trophy set up in the shelf at home along with the district championship trophies. He was just as proud of that as he was the district championships. And of course, at that time, the old New River District, it was formed in 1960. Okay. And from old District 6, which encompassed Bassett, Martinsville, all those schools down there, with all these schools up here. But sportsmanship was important. And that's something that I hope I did as a coach. I never liked, and I don't like it to this day, these demonstrations. I know they're just, in the end zone, after they score, and they're dancing around, and the announcers are saying, oh, they're just having fun, and I'm thinking, I thought playing the game was the fun. That's the fun. Why do they need to get in there and dance and talk smack? I'm thinking, talk smack my rear end. All right. just play the game. Play the game and play it like it's supposed to be played. Keep your mouth shut. play it clean, but play it hard, and I hope we coach this way.
Oh,
we wanted to play rough,
absolutely confirm.
and we wanted to be physical, but by gosh, I didn't want to see anything that wasn't supposed to happen.
Man, when we did,
and
we started chirping.
I had a couple of instances where somebody did something, and I had to take action. Well, let me tell you a story here, and this includes myself and my father. Playing high school basketball, we went over to play Fort Chiswell at the time, and at the time, Fort Chiswell was not in the New River District. But this one year they were, because they apparently had a larger enrollment. Usually they would have been single A. All right. But this year they were double A, and they were in the New River District, and they had one of the top teams in the district. Blacksburg was always one of the top teams. Pulaski was always one of the teams, and we were normally very competitive at that time. So we go over to Fort Chiswell, and we're playing, and it's nip and tuck. And somebody, they had this real outstanding player, a guy by the name of Jackson, who was about 6'4" or 5, and big and strong. And I can't remember whether it was him or not, but somebody from Fort Chiswell stole the pass, and they were going down the court toward the basket. And I was the only person that had a chance to stop it, but I couldn't quite catch up. So while I'm running down the court, I say to myself, well, I just got to tackle this guy, because we can't give up a layup. All right. So I dive as best I can, and I'm able to grab this guy's ankle, just one ankle, with my hand. I'm stretched out. And I grab his ankle, and that trips him up, and he and I go sliding into the court down there. But I stopped the basket because he couldn't shoot a layup. I tackled him. All right. I thought I'd done a great thing.
You'd be under the jail today.
I get home that night off the bus. We got beat. They beat us. Got off the bus. And Dad was waiting there to pick me up, because I had, if I was going to walk, I had about it's at least 2 miles from the high school to where I lived. So he was there to pick me up. Of course, it was, dark at night. And I get in the car, and he says, what happened with you and that Fort Chiswell player down there on the end of the court there? I couldn't quite see what happened. And I was feeling like, oh, God, I did a good job. He'll be proud of me. And I said, well, I just dove and grabbed his ankle to keep him from getting that layup. He didn't light into me, really, or chew me out or anything like that. But he let me know in no uncertain terms that shouldn't happen. That's not part of the game of basketball. Maybe that's on the football field, but not on the basketball court. He let me know, you don't do that again. And I never did. Of course, usually I was too slow to catch them, but that was it.
Relatable.
And that was a lesson in sportsmanship. And I think we've lost. That's one thing. See, that letter from Tommy Thompson fits right into that. And one of the big things he said was I learned so much from you and sportsmanship. I learned that. And I think we've lost a lot of that. Of course, heck, fire. We've lost a lot of manners, period. Kids aren't taught manners anymore.
Mine are.
Yes, sir. When I was growing up, it was yes, sir. No, ma'am. Please. Thank you. Where my classroom was, Marty.
Yes, sir.
Down there on the end. Well, kids coming from the vocational school, they'd always knock on that door. I'd go out and let them in. and I'm kind of wandering off track here, but it got to the point where I'd open the door and I wouldn't get maybe one or two or three might say, "Hey, thank you, coach. Appreciate you letting us in."
Yeah.
The others would practically run over top of me, not say a word, not even acknowledge that I'm there. And it's not, I'm not saying anything about me. It'd be same for any other teacher, and,
did you ever have personal fouls, Marty? Did you ever have any yellow flags come out?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it was just nothing more than arrogant stupidity on my part. And the one that stands out the most was when we were playing Central Lunenburg in the state championship game. Late in the game, I mean, we're holding on for dear life against a team that's won 27 consecutive games and is the defending state champion and has athletes just everywhere. They were a really good team, and they ran off tackle towards me, and the back was down or very close to down, and either the whistle blew or was very close to blowing or something. And I just ran over and just knocked the fire out of some guy who had wasn't looking at me. It was completely ridiculous. And I got a personal foul. And I don't remember if that gave them a new set of down. I don't remember what the context was of the situation, but I know this much. On the game tape, you can literally hear Jeff Williams say some very choice words to me at a very high level of volume. And I deserve, like, my teammates were so mad at me. Coach was so mad at me, and they had every right to be. It was just selfish. It was so selfish. And fortunately, it didn't hurt us to the point of being overly detrimental, but it was just really dumb. And on the basketball side, I had plenty of them where, your basketball is a unique game, man, because you're within a team structure playing against one person a lot. We played a lot of man defense, and teams played man defense against us. And our conference was loaded with talent, loaded down with talent. I mean, when I was in high school, our conference was 10 teams, 11 teams.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys went on to be collegiate athletes. And, you're growing up playing against these same guys from 8th grade on. And you build a very specific rivalry with very specific people. And I can name every one of mine. And now I just have so much respect for them as competitors, because I didn't all I wanted to do was win at the time, for any cost. I just wanted to win, and made some dumb decisions sometimes, and got my butt chewed for it, and deserved it. But ultimately, I think I was a pretty respectful competitor.
Yeah, well, you can be a top-notch competitor, and you can compete like the Dickens, but keep it respectful, and play by the rules and all that type of stuff. I had a player one year in football. I won't name any names, but he stepped on one of our opponents.
Christian Leitner
on the ground, and he walked by and stepped on him or something like that. And I thought about it, what should I do? And, I always tried to take things like that and make it so that the kid would learn something. But unless it was just egregious, I wouldn't kick them off the team or anything, because, I think sports, just being out there, teaches you some things and teaches you some discipline and everything like that. But I made him write a letter to the opposing team.
That's awesome.
In which he apologized for his behavior, during the game. And I told him, I said, now look, here's what you're going to do. You're going to write this letter, and in this letter, I want A, B, C, D, E, and F. And if you can't do that, then don't come back. I've seen you later. You're gone. All right. And then he did it, and he came back, and he was a good player for us. And shoot, I did that type of thing with a lot of kids. Because, Marty, we practiced hard. I don't think there's anybody that practiced any harder than we did. And we were pushing you all constantly, to try to get the best out of you that you had in you. And I remember one year, this was early on in my career. In fact, it was either the year before we won that first state championship or that year. And one of our top players one day on the practice field got a burr up his rear end. And that wasn't hard to do because, we're on you, pushing you.
No question.
And after practice, I brought him into that coach's office in there. And I told him, I said, look, I pointed out to him what he had done, his behavior on the field out there. And I said, you go home tonight and you think about it. And if you can't come back tomorrow and act like you're supposed to, don't show up. Don't come back. And he was one of our top players. Don't come back unless you can do it like it should be done and behave like you should behave. It's up to you. Either do it like it's supposed to be done and do it the way we tell you to do it, or don't come back. He came back, and he was one of our top players. And I never had another problem with him. Not a single one.
He had no choice but to come back.
He had to come back.
In fact, Coach, he was one of the leaders on our team.
Coach, I want to show you this before we head out. David Mabry, if you can see this, let me see. I'm going to have to do it smaller.
Old Dave, he's got it. I got a whole thing full of stuff over here he's run off from me. Yeah, I can see that. Let's see.
Jerry Huffman.
47. There goes Huffy.
Right there.
There he goes. There he goes.
Look at him just blowing off tacklers.
Look at that, man.
I mean,
5 guys.
He was a good back. He was a good back. I'm telling you.
Thanks, David. That's cool.
Oh, that's good. He had the ball. He used to carry the ball as a tailback. And of course, he shouldn't have been doing this. And I don't know why they had never corrected him. Maybe because he was doing so well the other way. But he carried the ball as a tailback, carried it in his left arm. And but oh man, I remember over at Pulaski one night, and I was just a kid, like 10, 11 years old, sitting up in the bleachers with my mother. And he ran 47. It was probably the one I was telling you about earlier. And he jumped when he got to the hole, one of Pulaski's players was like laying down in the hole. He jumps over top of him. And then there's another guy that comes up to tackle him about the same time, and he makes him miss and goes about 50 yards for a touchdown. But he was a really good running back and very competitive.
He was amazing.
Played basketball, played tennis in the spring, ran track, ran the hurdles in track.
When he coached us, he had a very interesting way. We were scared to death of Coach Ragsdale. But Coach and Coach Huffman just had a different disposition than Coach Williams had or Coach Kelly had. We were scared as hell of Coach Kelly too. But Coach Huffman had this funny personality that was so disarming and so relatable while also being such an incredible teacher of the game. And he was perfect on your staff for guys like me that had all of this insecurity about failure. And he had a great way of reminding us that you've done the work, you know the technique, just go execute, just go play.
Yeah.
And it was so good for guys like me and Bucky Burton and, guys I played with, that we were out there just doing our best to not screw it up. And he just injected so much self-confidence in us. He just said the man, and he taught me typing. So Coach, what was the transition like from going from being an athlete at Narrows High School? Let me ask the same question I asked.
I'm sitting there thinking you asked me that question a half hour ago.
No, it was not a half hour ago, Coach. It was a lot longer than that.
Well, let me just answer both questions real quickly. It was tough on my dad because he had started football at Narrows, okay, sure. And I was talking about my mother. She went to every football game, and she went to every football game of mine. My dear wife took her to every single ball game, okay, but she would not go to the Narrows Giles football game.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, because she just couldn't do it emotionally. All right, and then what was it like going from Narrows to Giles? I hated playing Narrows.
Oh, I loved it.
I hated it. And here's why. Coach Patterson, who played basketball for my dad in high school. All right. And then he came on and was at that time, and then he became the head basketball coach at Narrows High School. He coached me in high school. And at the time, it was customary for the head basketball coach was also the JV football coach. Mm-hmm. All right. So that's just the way it was. You were both. When you signed the contract, you were doing both of those things. Okay. And so he was coaching JV football and then helping Dad on Friday night. And then he was coaching basketball, in the wintertime. All right. And coaching me in basketball. Well, and God, you talking about hard nosed now, man. He was hard nosed. They had a heck of a staff. My dad, a guy by the name of Alan McClarity, who had, I could go talk about his family forever, and Coach Patterson. But I hated playing Narrows because at the time, Coach Patterson was both the head football coach and the head basketball coach. All right. So we were playing them and I was too. So I was playing them in football and also playing in basketball. And his family and our family were very close when I was growing up. In fact, he and his wife had a dinner one night for us to celebrate my mom and dad's wedding anniversary. Okay. And I'm a kid. I don't remember how old I was at that point, maybe 8th, 9th grade, something like that. And after football games in the fall, it would always be our family, the Patterson family, and the McClarity family. And this was the dads, the moms, and the kids, all the kids. The McClaritys had 2 daughters. Coach Patterson and his wife, they had 2 daughters and a son, and so on. All right. And so after every Friday night football game at home, there was a get together at somebody's house. But anyway, the Pattersons had us for a honeymoon dinner for my mom and dad. So now here I am years later coaching against Coach Pattison, somebody that I had the utmost respect for and still do. And he was one heck of a coach. And of course, I knew he wanted to beat me, and I knew I wanted to beat him. But it was like, I'd rather be playing Dave Christ or Norm Linneberg than the guy who coached me and coached with my dad, and our families were so close together, and that made, I was always glad when that Narrows football game was over and I could move on to the, whoever was coming up next. And then in basketball, you played twice a year, and God, it was, and at that time there was you didn't have ESPN and all that stuff. All right. And not taking anything away from ESPN, Marty, but
no,
that ESPN didn't exist. And at high school in particular, the gyms were full. They were full of fans. And God, that Narrows Giles basketball game was like, it was intense.
Fist fight in the phone booth. Even in my generation, it was the same way, man. And we loved it.
I was always glad when that Narrows Giles thing was over. But I think I know I made the right decision doing what I did, because at Narrows, I would have constantly been compared with my father. All right. And I knew that from the very beginning. And I also knew that hey, Giles had some good athletes, man. And so I knew that would be or should be a good situation, regardless of where I was and who I was playing against. All right. But particularly, it was good to get over that thing of competing against somebody that I really respected, and that type of thing. And so it was difficult. The week we were getting ready to play Narrows, I was glad when that was over. And so that was difficult to do.
Well, gentlemen, I can't tell you much. This has been awesome. I've just been sitting here, just like everybody in chat, all these messages I'm getting on the text line. People are just eating it up, Coach. Your mind.
Let me say one last thing,
remember
Rick.
all this? Like, it's amazing.
Let me say one last thing. Congratulations on that contract, Marty.
Yes,
You've
sir.
earned it, buddy. We're proud of you.
I appreciate it, man. Every day I just get up and I'm so full of gratitude for every bit of it, and I got to pinch myself. And
listen, if you ever need any weeds pulled out of your yard, give me a ring.
I'll bring the wheelbarrow.
Come on, man. Come on. Yeah, I appreciate that, though, Coach. Thank you. It's crazy to even be there at all, but to be, I mean, this is my 20th year at ESPN, and I've had wonderful life experiences and wake up every day with purpose and vibrancy, and I'm challenged, and I get to be a conduit of other people's truth to the sporting world. And that's a blessing beyond what I can articulate. And so thank you. I'm grateful for every bit of it.
Yeah.
Grateful for you.
Every bit of it.
Yeah, I want to echo that too, Marty. You and I hooked up when you were at NASCAR.com. Remember when you were?
Long time ago, man.
Man.
Long time ago, man. And every bit of it have been just foundation bricks to continue to, make your way and try to impact people in a positive fashion. And I'm trying to do that every day. And I'm so thankful to you guys, and
grateful to be from
Southwest Virginia.
Buddy.
Well, I'm thankful to you guys. This means a lot. This is great, and I know how much people in this area just absolutely eat this up every time, every month.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
It's fulfilling to get to hear Coach share his stories, and
it's unreal. It's unreal. It is.
For everybody out there Thank you for tuning in. And I just want to say, especially since it's probably a Southwest Virginia-centric viewer base, listener base, go Spartans. Y'all have a great week. I got to go to a meeting about the PGA Championship now.
Have a great. We'll see you next month. See you next month, brother. Coach, thanks, brother. Appreciate you, man. That was great.
Enjoy it, Rick. I enjoy this every time we do it.
It's so great. It's so great, man. Thank you.
And I wander off a topic let me take real quick, because I feel like I've got an insight that
absolutely
the average person doesn't know. Like these old stories, that like today that come from my dad and his era. I feel like people, I hope at least they enjoy hearing those stories.
No, they do. Trust me, they do. We all do. Well, Coach, listen, you stay safe, man, and we'll communicate here. We'll get this thing going again next month. We'll see you guys next month.
Okay, Rick. Thanks a lot. Enjoyed it.
Me too. Take care, man. There you go.
Okay, same to you.
That's the coach, Hall of Famer Steve Ragsdale. We appreciate him so much. And thanks to you for tuning in. Thanks to Marty Smith. Thanks to Damian Sordelette. We will see you all tomorrow on the Thursday edition. Everybody enjoy your hump day. Go back and watch if you missed any of the last couple hours. Just it's gold, as many of you were saying. It's priceless. Take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Be good.